In the annals of history, there's moments when the human condition rises in a way above its own expectations, not just to hope, and not just through achievements, but towards a trance, an almost trance-like wonder and valuation of its own dreams, its own fairness, its harmonies. And today we have a historian, uh, Giefel Dunder. Giefel Dunder Eekhoff. He's from Netherlands, and he'll be arriving in a moment. And what he's going to be talking with us about stuff today is what was the impetus behind the Dutch American revival in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, where work and the climate of benefits came almost like a pat on the head between master and servant, yet leading towards so much a liberal movement, and in the end culminating in a leftist bonanza and extravaganza of social ideals. Good morning, good evening, good morning, Giefel Dunder. Good morning. Please sit down. Thank you. Now, you've been studying Dutch and other histories for how long now? For 50 years. 50 years, that's a long time. That's half a century. You must have learned a tremendous amount during that period. So how does it affect you in terms of where you want to go, in terms of what you take on as your next challenge, either now specifically or in general? How has this trended in your life? What has trended in my life, because I have been around my continent, I have been to your continent, I have been to all of the continents, and I am inspired by the trends of where one movement in history leads to another. And so as I go from England to Scotland to Norway to Sweden, in this great loop that I call the Dutch loop, I learn in each country, and sometimes I go the other way, how the other travelers' influences spread geographically, whereas now the influences spread economically and via communications, and in the media, magazines. Now the computer, the World Wide Web, is everywhere in the world, and it is making our lives knowledge informed and showing us the light of a new day, and the way to that's incredible, Giefel Dunder. And I just want to stop you there, because I want to go back to something you said, the Dutch loop. Do you think the Dutch loop is important in the overall turning world events, world affairs, challenges, hopes, dreams maybe? Oh, definitely. The Dutch loop, as I know it to be, is a great wonder. It is one of the 7 wonders, and 6 of them are loops. One is the world itself, that have guided history, much like the Olympic rings have taught many the bonds of mankind. So do the loops lead black age into a greater age, the world age, which is the 7th loop. It's fascinating. A lot of people have talked about the number 7. 7 seems to come up a lot. There's the 7 seas, there's 7 Sinbads, there's all kinds of 7s keep coming up. The 777 is considered the jackpot number. The 7 continents, the 7 kings, the 7 needs. It goes on and on and on. And other numbers don't do that quite as much. Some do. Do any other numbers do that? Well, what do you think of the number 7? Let's stick with that. First of all, I think the number 6 does it for the Dutch. And the number 7 does it for mankind, because it is the universal symbol of humanity. It unites. It represents Jesus. It represents governance. It represents the weather, even the weather, the climate. Really, it represents the weather. It's really interesting. Now, how does it represent the weather? I've never heard such a thing. There are 7 basic conditions of weather: sun, cloud, rain, snow, storm, wind, and what do they call it? Currents, which is the world current. Because every these storms, if there were no world current, all the storms of the earth would not just they would not end. They would not stop the storm. The stormy weather would not stop. And the Dutch have known times when the cold was just excruciating, and the clouds were endless, and you never see the sun for 7 months in the 1500s, and the lightning, 7 strikes on the Church of Utrecht in 1649. And this goes on and on and on, and it is part of the Dutch consciousness that everything is connected to everything in the number 6, and everything is the same as everything in the number 7. Well, that's incredible. We're all the same in the number 7. And what else do you know about this? What else can you tell us? The number 7. It is the number of New York. It is the number of Long Island. It is like a 7. But in New York, the 7 goes down, and where the 7 goes down, it expands to this form of New York. And it is a great state to the Dutch, New York, because don't forget, New York was once called New Amsterdam to the Dutch. And New York, the state, was once New York, the state, to the Dutch. We honor that state because there are cities like Cortland and Elmira up in New York that the Dutch have long gone to. The apple orchards, the hayfields. We have gone fishing, we have gone trapping, we have done all kinds of things. Now, I don't want to promote trapping because the Dutch love the little fur-bearing animals. The raccoon, he is a friend of the Dutch. The coon haps. We skin the raccoon when he has already died. It is the saying of the Dutch. We consider ourselves civilized. Our art has been at the forefront of art in the world. And our technology is the best. And we believe in the 7th concept of connectivity, which is that we will control the technology. We will control the world. We will go and we will liberate the world. We will create an Amsterdam like no other city in the world. It will have its liberal tendencies. It will have drugs. It will have prostitution. It will have euthanasia. It will have vehicles that run on electricity. It will have bicycles. It will have canals. It will be the center of the world. And that's what we have always felt as the Dutch, that is Amsterdam's place in the world. Is the canals, the rings. There is no other city where the people have gone to work, have dug and dug and dug, made square sides, covered them with bricks. The water comes in, the water goes out with the tide, it comes back again. It is a cycle. It is the cycle, but it is not the cycle of the number 7, because the number 7 is nature, and you relax, you take the day off. That is what the number 7 represents. But for the Dutch, the number 6 is like a lasso. It goes around your neck and it pulls you and it connects you. And then they take off the lasso and you are better for it. And you work and you work and you work for the Dutch. And you work in the windmill, you work in the fields, you dig the canals, you dig the ocean, you build the boats, you go off, you found the religion, you proselytize, you take over, you found the new nation, you go everywhere, you found the nations. The other colonies, they will die. The people will rebel, they will give them, they will bless them, and the people will hate them. The Dutch had the foresight to know, you put the people in their own place, and then the world will not rebel in a time and fail. It will not fail. It will not choke itself. It will not lie. It will not lay down in the grave. Our canals are living. They are cycles. They flow around and around. They flow counterclockwise. All our canals, the tides, all go counterclockwise. And we take over the world, and we rebuild the world, and we pave the world, but we do not pave everywhere. We have flower beds. The tulips come out in the spring, and that is the essence. That is the representation of, you call it Netherlands, you call it Holland, we call it every crooked. That is a sophisticated word meaning the whole world's harmony. We release. We do not maintain captivity with slavery. We release people to their own populist independence. They don't know it in time until it's too late, and then the Dutch return and restore peace, harmony, blessings, love, animal rights. Food becomes free, housing becomes free, sex becomes available. That's how we do it, and that's the way it will be. Whoa, I hardly know what to say. I think there's going to be controversy in the audience. This is, thank you for coming on my show. I'm quite I'm disillusioned by. I feel like I'm becoming you. Thank you. I feel like 7. Oh, thank you, Mr. What's your name again? I couldn't remember that name.